Now I feel like I have access to anyone. They're not necessarily right here with me. When we call on them, they'll bring their channel through.
Beautiful. So the first question that we had was, it seems like there's so many different timelines people are choosing to be on, not just the masses, but within the light workers and star seeds. How is that serving and not serving us? My perspective is that most are not owning their shadow, so projecting them onto others, other races, and especially people in authority. So if that's the case, what am I projecting that I'm seeing that mirrored back to me?
So what we'll address first is the timelines. Is yes, there used to be a huge array of timelines. The way it shifted and split it off for all of the individual humanity and the humanity as a collective. As we're moving towards this ascension, the timelines are merging more and more close. And so there are fewer and fewer timelines because it's too much to manage those multiple timelines to get you all to the same place that you need to be, essentially. And so we have been working closely with the guides, rewriting contracts with you in your sleep state and merging the timelines to make them more similar in the individual aspect and as far as the collective aspect. And that we've been having some issues, especially with the light workers, the ones that were coming here to transmute the density, getting distracted and not those that had decided that they wanted to awaken and work out their densities here on the 3D planet to leave them behind when they ascend, that they were part of the problem a little bit. But we don't look at it as a problem because that's just kind of a human term, that's judgment, right? But we're using your language to help explain it. And so, yes, we've been activating more and more, like this channel per se, or other channels, or other means as a way to reach out to the light workers to give them the tools that they need to be able to transmute and work with their shadow. And so that's how we've been working that way, is we've activated more and more light workers who have done the inner work to then come and be kind of like train the trainer, like they're teaching and using their gifts and their skills to help to let those light workers be more on their path. And as far as what was the third question, the final question?
Yeah, so the second half of it was just what am I projecting that I'm seeing that mirrored back to me? Are you able to answer that question?
Well, I mean, it's essentially that. For individuality, when the mirror comes forth, you need to connect with your teams and asking, am I projecting this? Or is this something that is a trigger that I need inner work? Or is this something like this is an opportunity for you to connect with your team and ask that question and work with your teams on the signs that they give you and ask them specifically, like, give this to me in my dream state, give this to me in my meditative state. Work with your team on what the signs are, like, show me this number and that's a yes, show me that number and that's a no. Like, be very specific on how you want them to communicate with you. And the more and more they communicate with you, the more and more you acknowledge them, the better that communication will be. But for to do an individual thing is, you are going to be the best to answer that, as if it's a mirror or a trigger or if it's an observation. That more than a collective that is not associated with you will be able to answer.
What is the best way for us to begin healing our shadows?
Love, and that's easier said than done, but just acknowledging that your shadows do not define you. They are just experiences that are meant to help grow and evolve you. And so the easier, whatever it is for you that brings you to that place of understanding that you are an infinitely loved being, and that releasing the judgment of self and realizing that it's all just an experience and that there is no good or bad.
Amazing. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So our next question was, I'm curious about those that are labeled as autistic. Could various types of stemming and nonverbal sounds possibly be light language?
Yes, but I mean, we're going to be very frank here. Human beings love labels. You all love to identify with labels, whether it be light language, and we communicate with you based on your language and your understanding. But that is not something that we necessarily really communicate with uh, on this realm, because we see everything as energy, frequency, vibration. And so that's how we explain a lot of things through Carrie and a lot of her teachings, like that we explained through her as the channel, is because that's how we view everything. And once you view everything as energy, vibration, frequency, that is how you unlock, the higher dimensions. But that's just a lesson. But with autism, light language, yes, those can be instances of light language, but mainly beings who come here and are artistic, for one, have a contract that that's how they wanted to experience the world. They wanted to come in with more of an aspect of themselves, which becomes too much on the human body to then transmit and interpret the energy, frequency, and vibration that it experiences there on the earth. And so the autistic beings, they everything is too overstimulating because they experience it on such a different frequency. And so that is why the characteristics of what they exhibit there on Earth are the created. And so what they use for the nonverbal and verbal, they are manipulating energy, and they're able to communicate that way, and they're able to communicate on a whole and see the reality on Earth on a different dimension than most people, because the more of an aspect of themselves are entering the human body.
So are they able to tap more into energy fluctuations? Or I guess, like, would you say they already have a very active Kundalini?
Yes, so they do, but there are ways by the higher self coming in more, that it's an overstimulation. Like it's too much. Like the human body was not meant, and has the evolution of the human body has made it so it's not as capable of holding that much of a frequency of the higher self within its realm. So it kind of short circuits in a way, if you were if for explanation purposes, to give you an understanding. And so there is more embodiment of their higher self, which you could say is a more activated Kundalini.
So what are the children with autism here to teach us?
For some, they're here to say it was in the contract of their parents that they wanted to say in their parents' past lifetime that they were experienced being, caregived, and they were taken care of by someone. And so they wanted to experience to be the caregiver on this planet. So then they had a life contract where they wanted to be the caregiver. And so then the soul that comes in with the higher aspect of self, then they come in as what appears to be what you label as an autistic child here on Earth. So that's fulfilling a life contract. However, a lot of right now with the frequencies on Earth, what they're there to do is to hold a bigger, a more embodiment of a higher frequency, to anchor that here on the Earth, to elevate the Earth's frequency, to then help it get to a fifth dimensional mentality. And so they have several roles that they play, but one of it's to anchor in the higher frequency. But by doing that, they kind of short circuited the human bodies. And so it's all purposeful. The life's lessons and the life's contracts of what they are signing up for is very purposeful.
So what can you tell us about the new generation of kids coming in? Like what kind of gifts they have, what they're here to help?
So when you think of higher dimensions, when you see something from a higher dimension, you see a different perspective of the plane and different understanding that you may have not had a visible understanding of before. So the new children that are coming in more open, more open for their gifts. For one, within their body, they're born in these bodies that are more spiritually open, but they're also more like they're what you would call like a wiser older souls, and that they're coming in with more understandings and an easier acceptance of emotions. Like they're not getting as caught up or hiccuped as much as the older generations did in a lot of the emotions. They're having to deal with different elements altogether. Like we're showing Carrie, like the overexposure of like social media and stuff. They're having to then that's that generational collective's experience is the how to interpret and receive and to process the uh, over information, like overreaching information. So, but they are more understanding. They're more accepting. They're more loving. They have more ability to tap into their the acceptance of being able to be spiritually gifted.
So these, I guess back to the children with autism, I know that we've seen a lot more children come in with autism, but once we really make it through the ascension, then will these contracts not be needed anymore?
Yes. And that once you make it through the assumption, the access to healing is going to be almost instantaneous. And there are upgrades to the body that are happening. The bodies are changing over from a carbon based body to a crystalline structure.
So, what can you tell us about schizophrenia and how that's related to like different psychic abilities?
So schizophrenia is someone who is very open but can't control their and don't have the tools to control the openness. And so a lot of times what is happening in are there different fragmented souls that are jumping in and taking over the body because it's a very open channel. And it's a channel that doesn't have like not protectiveness, because we don't want to make it seem like people should be in fear. We try to really keep our message positive. We want to be very clear of that. But it's a very open channel that doesn't know how to protect from allowing other beings and using their free will to say, no, beings, you can't come in. This is my body, my choice, kind of thing. And so a lot of the times they're having different fragmented souls. A lot of times they're just on different timelines for different beings. And so they're experiencing timeline shifts, but remaining on a certain timeline physically. And so they are they have the ability to be very spiritually gifted. However, it's very erratic in them using their gifts. And so if you can't focus and like use the practice to help hone those crafts, it just looks like schizophrenia.
What about multiple personality disorder?
Same thing. It just shows up in a different way. So multiple personalities can be different, two different, three different, four different soul aspects that want to have an experience here on earth and use that body, that vessel, that avatar to have that experience. And it's written in the soul contract, but here to, humanity, it looks like a mental disorder.
What about bipolar with your emotions?
The bipolar is just a raising and a lowering of hormones and frequency at a rapid rate.
Are there any other mental illnesses that you could think of that you'd like to tell us about that are actually just like very misunderstood within our society?
Yeah, we're showing that we're showing Carrie, and this is very close and near and dear to her heart, is like Alzheimer's and dementia. That it is from unhealed trauma. I mean, the brain injuries can happen and cause that, but the Alzheimer and dementia is a lot of the times from unhealed trauma, and the brain gets put in a loop, like a looping pattern of thoughts, and the way it processes in the fight or flight, what you would call it, and that the looping and the trauma of whatever may have happened in the life that is undealt with, then becomes like Alzheimer's and dementia. And it's a way that when the souls don't want to learn the lesson and they're unable to move through that emotions, like they just keep showing me on replay, like on automotive, like they get put in this loop, and sometimes that their body, that they need to still stay behind to help their family members like have an experience and have something that they go through. So they stay behind in body, but actually their soul is kind of moving on and it goes on a different plane because it gets stuck on this loop and it's not dealing with the trauma. And so instead of what would happen normally in a life contract, that they would come back and do it again, right? Like they would die and come back and do it again. They have a contract to help whoever it is in their life or anchor in a frequency, like to learn a lesson. And so their body kind of stays behind, but it looks like it's like they're forgetful, but really their soul's already moved on as if they had passed. Um, and so what would be happen is that they would go do their life review, have that conversation, then like choose whether they want to come back and master it again and try to move through the trauma and the grief.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. What about Parkinson's? Like when we shake and have tremors really badly?
Parkinson's we're showing is like a neural pathway, like the energy is not connecting. Um, like in we're showing it in the brainstem, and like they're showing Carrie down the spine, like the energy's not connecting. And this is all things that you can do, like natural healing and all the modalities that work with energy are perfect for this because it's just the chakra energies not being aligned and telling the story, like they stop talking to each other. So everything has a very simple, like when you get a disease, yes, it could be in your life contract that that's something you wanted to experience, but it also can be something that it's a way of your body telling you to refocus and like, that like you start having Parkinson's, it's like, well, okay, start like meditating and start just imagining connecting the track of the chakras and like moving that energy so they're talking and they're not blocked. And so it's also a way for when you have these diseases, their warning signs are us saying we send that message to the body so that you can check in with the body and you can realign your chakras, realign your energy. And it's a lot of things that like that's what we're really showing Carrie with Parkinson's is that to if there are early stages to really work with the chakras and aligning, grounding that energy, really making sure that the circuitry is all talking to each other, spiritually and physically.
Okay, so I just kind of made a connection, so I'm going to ask you about it. So, growing up, we learned that all of these diseases were genetic, that they ran in our family, and now epigenetics is showing us that that's like not true at all. That really only like 5% of these diseases are actually that you would actually be born in to this life with, and actually have that disease. So is it more like we grow up and we see, like, let's say we have a family member that has this disease, is it more like it's a learned behavior? It's like they don't know how to handle their stress and move the energies through their body. So it's like we're learning more this disease from them. Does that make sense?
Yes, so it's twofold. Ancestral trauma, right? You're all told, and if you're listening to this, you've been down the rabbit hole a little bit, and you've learned about ancestral trauma. You've learned about like breaking the ancestral cycle. So There are energies that are encapsulated within ancestral cycle that do genetically, in a way, not so much your genes, but the energy that's passed on through your body until you break that cycle, right? So there's one fold. For the second part is that belief is energy, is creation. And so when you believe that this is genetic, then the more and more true you find that to be, that limiting thought that you are not all encompassing God having experience that is the creator that can create your own experience. So the belief can carry that energy, which brings the illness. And then your individual lifetime, like people who have heart problems, a lot of the times there's that pain in their heart that they're carrying and that they need to release. Like cancer is anger or emotion that's not processed through the body, that the body stores that trauma and it encapsulates it to try to protect it from all the other body from that trauma, that it becomes cancer, right? Like, so there's a lot of different folds to this. But yes, what you're saying is true, is that it's not really, none of it's carried with you from time to time and easily in this lifetime. And this is what you all signed up for, is to come be the ender of those traumas, to come be the creator of the life that you want to experience and to manifest. So these are all opportunities for you to empower yourself for the life you want to live, and realize that you are not the stories you're told you are.
So, what can you tell us about healing through the power of the mind? So, I guess I'm really thinking about like Joe Dispenza, and I listen to Joe Dispenza all the time. And he's always seeing like these magical things happen where people are like standing out of wheelchairs after meditating. And it's just incredible. So, what can you tell us about the power of healing through the mind?
Well, belief is what you're here, your perspective is your reality. So you have to start, for people it's different, but really the visualization, your mind, to already see the miracle um, you want to encompass, asking your teams to help, doing the inner work, seeing those triggers, working with those triggers, understand those triggers do not define you, but you know, um, they are a lesson and a teacher. Unconditional love, ways that things that raise your frequency to access that timeline where that healed body and that miracle already exists. There's so many things you can do, and this is why they call it the, school of life, is because it takes a little bit of time, but that's what you're moving to, is that way of being. Anything you want, you can access. So you have you know, it's all true. It all can be done. But visualization is a big one. Really, really encompass like what you want that miracle to be and see yourself already with the miracle. Don't operate from a place of lacking, but operate from a place of abundance, that it's already here.
Amazing. Thank you. So we
You're
just
welcome.
have one more question. He says, "Hi, my name is Cody, but my friends call me Jaku. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've been living a wild life full of extraordinary spiritual experiences and have a few questions about the psychedelic music scene and the pros and cons of attending such powerful events. I see things differently and have been noticing a huge shift in the vibration of music and people. Is there any advice they would like to bring forth for people awakening on this type of path? Is this music reaching a peak in quality or can it get better? I am just in awe at the way electronic music has evolved over the last few years. Any info on this would be much appreciated. So much love."
Well, we'd like to say hello to you, Jaku, and appreciate that you love music so much. And we very much love music and frequency and sound and vibration, the way it can elevate and bring euphoria. And the electronic scene, the psychedelic scene, what that's doing is it's just basically using energy and just uh, aligning to a higher vibration for all. A lot of the music that you listen to, like on the radio stations and stuff, the frequency has been changed to create, like we're showing Carrie, like when there's like the sand on the tops of like a drum or something, and they play different frequencies, and the sand combines or whatever to make different patterns based on the music that's being played, whether it's a short wavelength, long wavelength, and what hertz it's played at can make it either a harmonious, like a sacred geometry pattern, or it can make it a rigid, agitated just pattern. So what you've been attuned to for what would be, we don't want to attach to that negativity. We're just looking at it from an observational, very neutral point of view that your music has been changed to agitate society. And that's just the reality of what's happened, and people don't know it, and put some catchy phrases with some bad frequencies, and it can make people more agitated with each other. And when you go to an event like that, they're playing it to the true solfeggio frequencies that naturally aligned with the healing elements within your chakras, which bring them to a higher vibration. So what you're feeling then is not so like you're feeling it in the mind, body, and soul, that the frequency is the way it should be, and you're just in euphoria. And we want to tell you that's how everything, as you go to a higher dimension, that's how everything will feel within the universe, the unison, the love, the vibrations. You just want to dance with the universe in a way, because it's all harmonious. And so the reason why it's going to such a higher place is because they figured out the frequencies that are healing, like you would have in a crystal bowl or tuning forks or anything like that. They're using that, and they're using the vibration to really tap into the higher dimension.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I know some of my most like profound experiences were at events like that. So why does it also have to do with like community and being there as a collective?
Yes, you're all supposed to. I mean, a lot of indigenous tribes still work this way, and families can work this way. But I mean, you're all supposed to be working together and loving each other and having a great time and wanting to see the other one. People just enjoying themselves, and that brings you joy. It's just humanity has forgotten this a little bit, and they don't operate it. It's every man for themselves.
So do you see these events like shifting in any particular way as we ascend?
As far as be more specific, so we can answer that.
I mean, I guess the way that I think of it is that maybe not electronic events. Like, I guess what I have in my mind, because I used to go to a lot of these events. Um, the way that I see the electronic music scene shifting is that you'll see a lot less of like the chemical drug use, so a lot less of like MDMA, cocaine, things like that. Um, I mean, you'll always have like psilocybin, um, but it'll be a lot more natural, like more of a natural event. And then like you said, like just the music coming together in a more harmonious way. And I see a lot of like concerts and music events like that, not just in the electronic music scene. Like, I guess I would consider the electronic music scene when it comes to frequencies and things like that, it's actually pretty ahead. Um, but I just hope to see like a change in even like rock concerts and pop music just so that we can go into like you said how they put lower frequencies into this music. I just hope we see a really big shift in that soon.
Yes, there will be. And, those, a lot of those drugs, we say anything that's artificially made, it's a drug in a way to us, but anything that is of the earth is more of intuitive, working harmoniously more with the body based on intention. And so, but what you will see is that you already have a lot of these drugs within your brain, the chemical responses. And so, using certain frequencies can activate those chemicals to create the same experience like you would have on mushrooms. And so they'll be more working with that. So you still can have and like if your intention is to go and have an uplifting, somewhat enlightening experience and connectedness with all through a higher joy, like love, you can go have that experience and your brain will naturally release those chemicals.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. So, did you want to try to bring in the Lyrans and just see what happens?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Beautiful. So, for the Lyrans, we're just gonna ask, do humans embody some Lyran traits, and which ones, if we do?
Yeah, so we are, and Carrie did tap into this earlier, but we are showing that it's more of a masculine energy that the Lyrans carry. Like we're showing her more of like a warrior type of spirit, brave, um, and humanity does have this. And there are, I mean, of course, there are those connected more with the Lyran soul signature frequency. And so they're going to embody more of this. But yeah, there are like we're just really showing her like going to battle, going to war, that strength, like not afraid of anything, like wanting to um it's not a conquering, like they don't have like they're not doing it to do ill will towards others. They're doing it in a way of a bravery and like protective, like but they're not ones that are going just to like ravage. But yeah, humanity does have some of those characteristics.
So, what is the Lyran's part in our DNA or in our ascension?
We're showing Carrie like the unification, like standing on a line, like almost like the archangel standing arm in arm, standing like together as this unified front, and like this warrior type of like we're not gonna we're united together, and like against what you would call like the evildoers on earth. And so what it's creating is like oh, there are certain light workers that have come to this earth that are light warriors. And so humanity, and they would embody more of the Lyran signature frequency, in which they're like standing next to you, arm in arm, protecting and like holding their light. Like it reminds Carrie of when they were like the Care Bears, they used to interlock arms and be like, Care Bear stare. Like that's kind of like the imagery they're showing as like the light warriors are really like they may not be physically like next to another light warrior, but on the tapestry of life they are connected, where they're geographically located, that are creating these beautiful like protective barriers for the people in their area, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Like they're standing up against the dark.
So, how could we reach out to the Lyrans and ask them to work with us?
You just do exactly that. I mean, you can just connect in your heart and your mind, quiet the mind, connect with them, ask them to come in and show you what you need to be shown for your life. I mean, really, I know that we're you guys, we know that there's a lot of techniques you're all taught and everything, but it's very just as simple as connecting in to any collective that you want to connect in with, asking for the highest and greatest information to be given to you, and whatever is meant for you. Whether sometimes you're not meant to receive the information, and that's not, and Carrie herself has been disappointed at times the information she hasn't been able to get because it would have been a distraction to her. She would have gone too far to the left, and we needed her to stay on the right and do what she was maintain what she was doing. And so it's just like that. If the information is meant to be yours, you have access to all information. But if your team's guiding you and says, no, we think that might be too distracting, or yeah, it can be a distracting lesson, like let it happen. Um, but it is as simple as connecting in. It's just you guys are that powerful that all you have to do is quiet the mind and connect in. And if it's meant for you, it'll happen.
So, do you have any other messages for the collective today?
No, we are here and we love you. And, we'd love for all of you individually to connect in with us. And, we're really trying to fine tune these frequencies and these transmissions so that they can be for the greater healing and, higher perspectives for all. And, yeah, we're grateful to talk to you today.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.